next week. We'll meet with Raul. So I suppose we can begin. What's the intro? 3, 2, 1. Live. Okay. Podcast is on. By the way. So what's cutting in the land of the law? Are there any controversial lawsuits happening?
Well, there are a lot of things that are happening, but to speak generally of it, I'm perhaps in that stage where I'm losing a lot of the idealism that I had. I still have then some ideas, but I think once you get some, at a certain point you get to a place where a lot of that shrouding, being like shrouded like a very mysterious thing up there is completely lost.
Why is that the banality of the system is wearing you down?
Not really the banality. Like I came to a point where certain ideas about things like justice don't really apply in that world. You're bound to get it, but to a certain degree, yes. But there are many other competing interests other than just justice.
But so you want to tell me that there was a time when you thought that only justice was
I thought that was the preeminent thing.
Yeah.
But you see, these institutions are composed by different people who have very different ideas on what that practice is. As much as it's been around for a long time, people have never really agreed on what takes precedence. So there'll be somebody who will want to pursue justice at all costs, but that has its implications also. Then there's somebody who maybe will pursue mercy. So it's a mixed bowl. Some other people will pursue monetary interests. Some are there to achieve maybe some other ends.
Fame, notoriety,
So you tend to get some of these decisions you get, or even the process itself ends up being a very, very different animal than what I thought it was.
Is this a good way to think about that? It's an ecosystem of incentives and actions, and each person pursues their own goals within this system. But then isn't the orienting spirit of the system still the pursuit of justice? Does all that ecosystem of incentives, all those things that people pursue, the ones who pursue notoriety, the ones who pursue fame, the ones who pursue money, the ones who pursue mercy, the ones who pursue professional development or whatever, everything, each person has their own primary motivation. But are you going to see that the sum total of all that is not that justice is found or delivered, or is there something else that the system does more, or maybe not more, but better than producing justice? Is there anything else that
I think that's not? You see, justice is not really a preserve of the legal system. I would say.
Well,
the formal process.
I'm talking of legal justice.
Legal justice.
Because we're not going to talk of justice as justice. I mean, I don't think that even.
Yeah, even especially legal justice. Because everybody, there are ways where you'll be the one to be tasked with, like ensuring that legal justice is enforced. I don't know. You'll have to give that justice to another person, and also somebody else might also be. So there's an expectation, not even like an expectation, that if you don't have that, then you cannot have the formal legal process to the court system. It's an entire, I would say, it is what makes up the society. It is like something that is all pervading in all transactions. So that's why I say it's not a preserve of like the courts or
the justice system. Yeah. I mean, because the concept of justice is, best thought of as one of the 4 cardinal virtues. Is it Aristotle? Anyway, the ancient philosophers who talk of these 4 cardinal virtues. Cardinal, the root is cardo, which is a hinge. Okay, that's Latin. So I'm sure the Greek word is different. But you have prudence, you have temperance, and you have fortitude. Then the 4th one is justice. And the reason we say the 4th one is justice is because these 3 are inherently personal virtues. They relate with they relate to the individual's own good. That's what they're oriented towards. Prudence, your own decision-making abilities. Fortitude, the internal strength, the ability to persevere through tough times, even good times, but to stick to a certain way of life. And then temperance is the regulation of the appetites. Again, your own as a person. Then justice is to give to other people their due. So now you bring in society. So justice has to pervade it, like wherever 2 people are involved. If you're, you can be just to yourself, that is true, but that's not the preeminent domain of justice. Being just to yourself, I think, is to develop the other virtues. So it's when you apply those other virtues to other people that then, justice comes in. So whenever 2 people are involved, more than one person, then necessarily justice has to be. Those relationships cannot be talked of as being good unless justice is present. So the reason I was specifying that, the institution that we have, the legal system, the justice system, does not exhaust justice as such. So we have to really specify that this is legal justice. This is justice under the law.
Yes.
Okay? And this law is the legal law, so our constitution and the laws that we have. But it cannot exhaust justice. It doesn't even come close to... I think the legal system only comes in because people have disputes.
Yes.
It's a
dispute resolution.
It's a dispute resolution framework. And some disputes cannot be settled interpersonally, like just 2 people. You need to bring in a 3rd person. So then the legal system is abstracted out of all that. But even that comes in like so much later in the process. A lot of disputes will have been resolved without involving the government, which is what the justice system really is about. If we cannot resolve a problem between ourselves, we can even bring in a 3rd person to mediate. I was recently put in. I was called by a relative to go and adjudicate in their marriage. I found the experience quite humbling. Well, primarily because they thought that I was qualified. I don't think I was. But you see the wisdom there that, okay, fine, we've been having this problem multiple times. We both have vested interests in the thing. So maybe we are not very close to being impartial about this. And we have so much backstory of each other, So let's bring in a 3rd person who can hopefully listen in and see if either of us or both of us are being unreasonable. They didn't need to involve a higher authority even, I suppose when a problem like that spirals out of control, then we bring in the justice system and they go through family code and all that. But before we get to that level, already there's been a lot of attempts to arrive at beforehand. Yeah, so when I met justice, when I thought of justice as like, isn't the system at the very least delivering primarily as its main product, or oriented towards delivering, even if it doesn't to deliver like legal justice? Is it that what it's about?
Yeah, I would say yes and no. It is that one place especially where you should have that dispensation,
Yeah.
But I think because on the no side there are a lot of critics against it, because it's so formalistic in a sense to put you in this mind frame that this is what the legal justice system perhaps in the country is. There are people who are coming out to say now we have very different conceptions, not of justice alone, but of what a legal system is. They're calling it AJS, alternative justice systems. So it's not like one system. It's like many systems of legal. What you would say is legal justice, because at the end of the day, there are things that they share in common.
Yeah.
Like you cannot perhaps abuse somebody's rights, not to be hard, But people are really the custodians of. They are in fact the legal system. Every individual, and maybe some inanimate things are also given that capacity. So there was a professor, I forget his name, but he was very, very passionate about it. So guys like Joy Ngugi, then I think a professor, or no, two of them. One was in fact very, very critical of, like you'd say, the professional lawyers or the professionals in the system, because they're the ones who continue to perpetuate this idea that this is the only this is the legal system, the courts, the arbitrators, judges, lawyers. So they've sort of, because of interest, you see, because it is the same lawyers who also perpetuate the
alternative dispute resolution.
Yeah, they're only like courts, But I think from where as our ideas have developed over time, they are very strong proponents, under which I agree. Because you see, before we were here at a certain point in time where we didn't have this formal court system.
Yes.
So it is not possible for us to say that this is the only form.
This is the sine qua non of justice.
So nothing else, as in it's like living in Kukuland.
And yet this is so new actually. It's so new to us, especially to us Africans.
Like your body, it's even like from the customs we've had over time. Yes, they develop and change. But you could very well say that there are structures,
and in fact, it's necessarily. I mean, you cannot, as we were saying, you cannot have two people present in a space without the principles of justice needing to be observed for that relationship to be sustainable in any sense. So necessarily, every society has had a process for resolving disputes since time immemorial, and I think here in Africa, this very formal system is super new. So maybe also we've not like embodied it properly. It's not yet built into the fabric of our cultures and society. It's a transplant. So I don't know. Maybe
some sort of grafting.
Yes. Well, maybe it's because we've not had it for long enough. Because it does have its virtues. I don't know. It's not as arbitrary as I suppose. Although even all systems, I don't think were very arbitrary. Yeah.
I suppose they also had their time when they had like teething problems.
Yes.
But we've had the benefit of
time
practicing it over a long period of time. So
yeah.
So these guys have resorted. In fact, it is now, strangely enough, it's something that is cross-disciplinary. Because you find these people who do studies on people, anthropologists and legal practitioners. So it is not possible for that system to work if you don't have stakeholders from who will see things in a different way. So they've done, and to show you that it works, they've done, I think for years now, I don't know for how long, but in Kajiado, they have these systems where you could go to like council of elders, for instance. So it depends. So like if the border guys have their dispute resolution mechanism. So they've been running it for some time, and it's something that definitely can work.
I'm noticing something here. It's a digression. The fun is really on. I hope it's not. I hope it's not coming into the microphone. But at least it demonstrates that we cannot use it in the future unless we get microphones that put the computer very far away and keep the microphone. But I wonder, this is not a heavy load. It's not. Or maybe it is, because it usually doesn't sing like this when I'm doing anything. Yeah.
When you're using the
microphone and the recording.
Yeah.
Maybe it is an intensive process. It's just sound. Come on. It's the process of coding the analog signal into a digital signal, because it cannot be stored as an analog signal in the computer. Anyway, the learning process.
Yesterday, I was looking at somebody called Adam Smith. He's a proponent of that.
Adam Smith, the founder of economics.
Yes.
It's 19th century Scottish economist.
Yes. I found, strangely enough, he had lectures on these students. So his students were collecting lecture notes, and then they were published much later. So he's been like a proponent of this thing of what we are talking about, what this idea of justice not just being what we thought it was. It's a bit more like a developmental process.
Well, I'm not very familiar with much of his work, or even that area. But anyway, I don't know. So what would you say is the fruit of your gathering disillusionment with the system? Is it that you're also starting to push more for alternative dispute resolution, or is it sufficient to drive you out of the system altogether?
I think it's really allowed me to see my place in it. So, but it hasn't really changed the way in which I operate. But it's almost like I met a completely different person. So it's changed my perspective. So I see things a little differently. Like somehow, like but I'm not lost in that.
And would you say that this was a one-time realization, or it's been gathering with time?
It's been gathering, I think, about a year or two. There's this guy, this character in To Kill a Mockingbird. He says, I think one of his children says that, asks him, why shouldn't somebody kill a mockingbird? And then he gives you can kill some other birds that eat corn in the field, but all a mockingbird does is to sing. So if you kill the mockingbird, you get a curse, because you're killing the innocent. You're condemning the innocent to a fate that they don't deserve, So that foreshadows the ending of the story. If somebody has not read it, but it's also because I feel like at some point he was arguing this case for a guy who was limped on one arm, and somebody accused it was a black person. So he argued his case, and it seemed pretty clear even to the audience and to myself that this guy was not guilty. But because the jury was completely white, they still condemned him to hang. So they ended up hanging him. And he was the only person who was like convinced, and his lawyer was the only person who was convinced that he was innocent. So Atticus Finch did not stop believing in justice in the river, but he was skeptical of. And I think maybe he was okay with the fact that he knew that they were going to convict him as much as he was innocent. But he kept telling his children, don't feel hurt don't get scared by this event, They still believe in people as much as they may do these things, but there's a small chance that once in a while they'll do. And
the possibility that they'll once in a while deliver actual justice is enough of a reward. Like the cost we bear for that,
it's enough to fight.
It's enough to justify. I was just thinking of Socrates because it's exactly the same story. Except in this case, it's actually the person who's suffering from the effects of a corrupt justice system, but is willing to bear that cost instead of burning it down because he believes in that they have the right to do that. And if I make myself an exception, then why shouldn't anybody else make themselves an exception? And if we do that, then the whole system comes crumbling down.
Right.
So I'll pay for it with my life. I'll pay for it with my life.
Is it the one who died laughing? Who was it?
I don't know if it was. I don't think it was Socrates.
There was somebody else. I don't know if it was him, but he was like, I'm going to see the afterlife. So why should I do?
Why should I? Well, he did make that argument. I don't know if he was laughing, to be honest. Maybe he was. What I do know is that everybody was crying, but he was fine. Yeah. There's that famous painting. I think you've seen it.
Yes.
Where he has the goblet of hemlock poison, and even he's one of the person giving it to him can't even bear to look at him. Everybody is looking away at the wall and crying, and he is there, very confident. A very striking painting. So it's the system that we have. We can't tear it down, because we tear it down, then you in this movie, A Man for All Seasons, about St. Thomas More. I think it's based on a play or a biography of him. I'm not sure. There's a point where he's asked if he would defend the devil in a court of law.
Yes.
And he says yes. Yes, I will defend the devil in a court of law. Of course, everybody is scandalized. I mean, you're a Christian. You've made no secret of your Christianity. Yes. That is the very reason you're in trouble, actually. Actually, I would. Because if I was to cut down all the laws of England just so I could get the devil, and then the devil at that point would turn around and aim for me, where would I hide? Because all the laws would be cut down. Where would I defend myself against the devil? So he says, I would defend the devil in a court of law, yes, for my own safety's sake. So we keep the system, even though the same system, again, even him also ended up cutting his head off, separating his head from his body. It's a fantastic trade-off to have to make that the system becomes so sacred that, in a sense, your life, which is actually more sacred than the system, can be sacrificed for the integrity of the system. But I suppose it's because the system is there not just for your life, but to protect the lives of everybody else. Which, in the aggregate, I don't know if more lives are valuable than one life. I don't think that's a calculus that is wise to make. But I think only the individual can make that decision with his own life, not with the lives of other people. I don't know.
And some things perhaps other people are not willing to compromise on, even in the face of their own death. So perhaps it depends to the degree with which you are compelled by.
Actually, I thought just to cut to me. So maybe it's like you're not really sacrificing your life for the integrity of the system. You're sacrificing your life for your own integrity.
Yes.
It's not the system you're protecting. It's your soul.
So you will not put yourself in a position. Perhaps it's hard if somebody gets to those kind of convictions. Perhaps you've already, in fact, lived much of what you are intended to live. So you will not be like, if I've lived to a point where I can refuse to compromise for anything, then you've accomplished your life's goal. So whether you die or not is immaterial.
Yeah. I was going to say Jesus Christ was only 33. Again, the same system. Again, I mean, it's a perfect example of an innocent person dying for a crime he did not commit. In fact, he did not commit any crime at all. You can't even say that he was completely blameless. But then for him, it was at the age of 33. He was still a boy. He was still, by the definition that we have for youth, he was still, Socrates was already quite advanced in age. Thomas More was in his second marriage. Was his first wife. They're not saying that a Christian can have multiple wives. Let the audience not be misled.
That's interesting because there's something else that was bothering me. I don't like speaking of things when I don't have much information. But there's this concept called no fault divorce.
So the American thing.
So there's an amendment being brought to Parliament.
Okay, the Kenyan Parliament.
Yes.
Okay, this is important.
The Marriage Act, saying that parties to a marriage can apply for it to be dissolved without reason. Without the traditional rules or the rules that are there right now.
I didn't know what this is. This is interesting, huh?
So my concern has been, I don't know, I'm not an expert on marriage or anything, but the tradition has always been that if you want to divorce, then you have to have good reason, at least for the system that allows for divorce. But if that is the case, if somebody were to make that argument, then my thinking would be, if you choose to conduct perhaps a civil marriage, then you would have that option. But for systems where, you can't impose something like that on a Muslim marriage, you can't impose it. Those systems have their own rules.
Yes.
So if you celebrate perhaps maybe a Catholic marriage that does not allow for divorce or something like that, or it has its own rules, then that sort of amendment cannot be imposed on all of them. So I don't know.
In our system, are not all marriages, like if you're going to look at it only from the legal perspective, are not all marriages civil marriages?
No.
In this sense, the government recognizes marriages.
Yeah, but the fact that the government recognizes it, does it mean that there are a lot of things that have legitimacy outside whether the government is there or not? No. For instance, if I come today and pull out, for instance, in a country like Nigeria and say, I've suspended the constitution, there's curfew, what effect? There's no government at that point, at least not in the sense that we understood it before the coup. It's it's a completely different system.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, if you don't have the government and they decide today not to recognize people have some forms of marriage, that does not change the fact that
people are married. That is true. What I'm saying is, like, from the legal perspective, because the government regulates marriage, and the government has an act. We have an act, the Marriage Act, which recognizes specific types of marriage. Does that not, at least from this perspective, I'm not saying universally. I mean, people have been marrying long before governments existed. And marriage is one of those things that really does precede society and does precede government. It's a cell of society. What I am talking about is from the perspective of the government, to the extent that it regulates marriage. Does it not make all marriages, besides everything else that they are, also civil?
No.
It does not. Because then why does the government take part in...
You see, when
for divorce in Kenya to be valid, isn't it that the government has to recognize it as a divorce?
For it to have the consequences that follow divorce.
Yes.
Definitely.
So that is what I mean.
Like, you can't marry somebody else if you are not what's there with an army. But people do, anyway. And they have a life of their own outside. So it's almost like a dual system sometimes.
So, I mean, fundamentally, marriage is not, how do I put this? Marriage precedes government. Marriage precedes society. Marriage precedes, all regulations that we might have on it. That is the right way to look at it. But anyway, just please let's just backtrack a little bit. Who's bringing this amendment?
Let me just pull it out.
Yeah, because this is important. I'm not it. Wow. Okay, that's radical. You see, because in the US they've had that concept, no fault divorce, for what, 40 years. It's one of the major consequences of the sexual revolution. So, which basically came with the idea of divorce as and when you want it, widespread access to abortion, again for any reason, which is what Roe v. Wade was about. Now that has been overturned and it's becoming a serious political motivation in the US. And then I think also the other major consequence was the widespread availability of contraceptives. So those three things have had such an insidious effect on American society that they do not even know that that's, like, those are the roots of their main problems right now. They think, Trump or Biden. It's not there at all. I mean, if people can walk away from the one visible commitment that society has had from the very beginning, like the one thing that will actually change people down, because you can make promises about all other kinds of things, and you can pull out if you want. Nobody will have a problem. Well, some people will have a problem with you, but marriage was the one thing that people knew that once you were in, you were in. There was no joking around with it. Okay? And even people who had what are so-called shotgun marriages, where you get a girl pregnant and then society is like, good. Actually, this is you need to do something about this. Then people get married and many 8-month births, 8-month births, because the girl was already pregnant at the time of marriage. Even those ones would last a very long time. There's been a revolution in the last 50, 60 years in our understanding of marriage. Some aspects of the motivations for that change are very good, because before there was such little focus on the people getting married compared to the children that they would bring. Now, I think ultimately still marriage is about the children, because then otherwise why get married? I mean, we can just They just live together. But the only reason why we need to stick together for so long is precisely because we're going to bring other people into the world, and nobody else is qualified to bring them up.
Aside from the two.
Yes, yeah, the people who are like really most closely biologically related to them. Some people are very altruistic. They can be motivated enough to bring up the children of other people as their own. But that requires some serious virtue. The only person who has a real stake in the bringing up of a child that they don't even need to think about is a biological parent. Yes. In a sense, they don't even have a choice. So and we can actually blame them if they don't do that job well. So that should not be forgotten. Unfortunately, I think the pendulum swung all the way to the other end. It should have swung somewhere to the middle.
Yeah, I think the children aren't really being talked about, but you see that would also lend it would lend itself to the argument that precisely why some of those provisions are required, because some people get into a position where the environment we create for the children is not one where they can live.
Do you know all the studies that have been done on this one, actually the vast majority, not all of them, the vast majority of them that have been done, show that it's actually still better for children to be with their parents, even if the environment is not very good, than for their parents to be separated and for them to be brought up by one of them. Like, study after study after study, and even review studies come in and say that it's better for children to be brought up by their biological parents. Almost to the exclusion of the actual circumstances in the home. It's better if they know that their parents stay together despite all the challenges that they have. Yes. Now, you have cases where now abuse comes in and all that. I mean, those are things which society then has to deal with. Mm. But by and large, I mean, even if the parents have problems, which all parents do, I don't think two people who didn't grow up together in the same house can all of a sudden, from at the point where they get married, in late 20s, 30s, can all of a sudden become, that they don't have something.
Yeah, it's entirely true.
Yeah.
But, that is one of the things that I would say has really increased my threshold for patience. Because you realize some things, if you take it too hard on the way somebody rubs you the wrong way, they're definitely going to be rubbing you off your entire life,
because
so
they grew up in a different system, and you guys met each other after you're matured. Your ways were set.
You're stuck in there.
So I guess that's actually the magic of marriage. That can bring in these two strangers, put them together, and then they stick together to the end. Yeah. Now we've and I don't know why somebody would bring an amendment like that in Kenya, when we can see the effects that it has had on societies elsewhere.
It would have like a ripple effect on many other.
Because in the US now, half of all marriages end in divorce.
Wow.
Yeah. Is it? No, actually more than half. More than half of all marriages end in divorce. And many people are like on their third. Part of the reason why more than half end in divorce is because they don't even count marriages that happen after divorce. So somebody gets married, then they divorce. Okay. And was it like half ending divorce within like a certain amount of time? It's ridiculous. Like, marriage has become meaningless. Because in fact, that's why some people then say that why even get married in the first place? Because they think of it, as I was saying, that it's only the civil aspect of it. It's only why should I go and get a piece of paper from the government? Yeah. So then you have some famous people like this fellow, Ricky Gervais, the comedian, who he is British. But it's like, why should I get a piece of paper when I can just agree with the person that I'm with, that we can stay together? And remarkably, the guy has been with the same woman, I think, for 20 years or something. It's attractive. And that's what really marriage is supposed to be. But then, you see, because people have forgotten that there's way more to this thing than what the government recognizes. That, as I was saying, that it's just it's not just the civil aspect of it. It's not just the piece of paper that the government gives you. Marriage precedes that. The government only comes in because the government needs to know how to regulate this. Two people coming together, you're going to have disputes. Some of them will need to be resolved by the government. So the government needs to have a basis for doing that. Okay, you've fought, or you're fighting over property or whatever. Eventually, you might want to dissolve this thing. So the government needs to come in. I don't know, crimes of passion. No? The government needs to know how to handle you two because your case is a bit special. So the government comes in and puts a contract for you guys to sign. But the marriage is not that. That is not the form of the marriage. That's just something that the government comes in with precisely because the government needs to regulate.
Yes.
And this is why people do the marriage in public. Okay, you come out in public, you have a witness for the government, you have a witness for society, you have a witness for the church. But it's you two really that are involved in the marriage. So I'd really want to read this amendment.
It's like one they're just introducing one section. Section 75A. The objects here like an act of parliament to amend the Marriage Act 2014 to provide for dissolution of marriage by mutual consent and for connected purposes. So it says mutual separation then means the agreement by spouses to live separately as husband and wife under the same.
So wait. Okay, that's not 44.
No,
That's
okay. You see, so they're called. This is the dissolution of marriage. No, that's just the definition of mutual separation.
Okay.
So, but that is the object at the end of the day. So I think right now it's, if I'm not wrong, it's right for public participation and for people to do that.
That's important. I need to participate in that. This was how long has this been?
This was last week, I think. It was sent here last week.
Go forward that to me, if you don't mind. And do we know who's moving it?
I'd have to check the bill itself.
And it's in the National Assembly.
Yeah, this is a National Assembly bill.
That's remarkable. Because
27th of June 2022.
So it seems this thing is really chewing the battery, yeah? Yeah, because it's now telling me that the computer wants to die. So recording sound is a process intensive.
Now, the member of parliament proposing this bill is Peter Francis Massar.
Peter Francis Massar.
Yeah.
He's a member of parliament for an area or a nominated. Wow, that's cool.
This is a sort of thing, where this is a member of parliament for Suna West.
Saluo. Yeah.
Is it Massara?
Suna West is
independent candidate.
Suna West is in Migori, no? Suna is in Migori. Yeah, so Migori who are listening to this podcast, get on your MP. This guy is going to cause way more trouble.
I did send you there to do this.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, Suna West constituency. Honorable Massara Peter Francis. Okay, we need to get on his ass. Really, because I mean, some societies are the ones that I find that the Europeans have been way more sober about these things, even about the LGBTQ stuff. They don't rush headlong into these matters the way the Americans have. Americans are very quick to the draw, and it has damaged their society. Like many children now in the US grow up in what are called reconstituted family. And see, this thing also is actually very damaging to women. Not to men maybe, but men also hide their vulnerabilities a lot. But you see, because it's the women who have to live with infants, with babies, that it's horrible.
Adam Smith was mentioning this same thing came up that in his lectures. Mm-hmm. He says that, you see, for a rule is normally put in place to deal with certain. There's something it's trying to protect. Yeah. There's something there's a purpose for which that rule is there. So I think people who see the law just as like the formal aspect of it, the black and white letter. Yeah. That's not what it is. The rule is it needs to respond to formalism and what it responds. It's actually meant to respond to. Yeah. There's a correspondence. Yeah. So when he argues that, for instance, in marriage, it is better, in fact, for the wife to have a partner to help raise the children rather than the other way around. That is why you cannot have the no for it. He argued that. Yeah. So I think it's something that gets lost in the translation because of how people consider what the law is. Yeah. You can't just have a rule, describe them.
And I'm already thinking of the effects. I mean, if with the laws that we already have right now, so many marriages are breaking. And see, marriages are public good. Not public good. I don't know if I can define it as such. Maybe it's even the public good par excellence, because it's the domestic government. It's where, I don't know, man. Why can't they make laws that make it easier for people to stay in their marriages in the past?
Yeah, you see, the thing is, it ends up having a spiral effect on other things. Yeah. Because just as you say, it's the local government. Yeah. So you cannot have the values you superimposed on top of the entire society if you don't have a setup like a family where those things are engendered. If you are, justice will start from there. The prudence and all these other things, they start from there. So if you cannot have it at a macro level, then everything else unravels.
Blows apart, and then you have problems that you don't even know where the problems began, but it's down there. Yeah, it's down there. No.
It could be also a nefarious thing. Some people argue that it is done primarily on purpose, and it seems almost to be deliberate. I don't know, because I'm not privy to the organizings behind the scene of why you would have certain things, But it seems to a lot of people that there's a systematic manner in which these things come to the public gallery. Yes. Definitely to destroy society.
Yes.
So you see, the more...
I'd actually be interested to find out, now that you bring that up, to find out who funds this guy. Because, why? Where is this coming from? What is it trying to achieve?
I know. There are interesting groups.
Yeah.
In the legal system who would benefit a lot from the consequences. Yeah. That those kind of provisions.
Your friends. Huh? Your friends will have a lot more work.
They'll have a lot, perhaps.
Actually, the only people who benefit from divorce proceedings really and consistently are the lawyers. Those are the guys who they come out winning no matter what.
And there will definitely be others in the mix, like say the contraceptive or pharmaceutical companies. There's definitely people who will benefit, but as far as they are the ones. I don't think I can see.
Wait, you say this guy is independent?
Independent.
It's saying here that he's He's affiliated with him on his parliament profile.
Okay, I don't know what's the ING. So that one.
But it's not showing with the previous sponsor. I don't know. We need to get on these guys' butt big time. I mean, something like that needs to die. Like, immediately. But anyway, my thoughts on the government's regulation of marriage are also very still. I'm conflicted quite a bit about the place of the state in marriage.
Yeah.
On the one hand, the state needs to get involved because the state is the administrator of the common good, and marriage is part of the common good. And but then on the other hand, once the state gets involved, then also to prevent the state from doing things like what this guy is trying to do.
Yeah.
Because then it comes in and distorts the meaning of marriage completely. What's to stop the state from, for example, recognizing so-called gay marriage? I used the air quotes in the listeners. Because unless the state realizes that it doesn't create marriage, it's not up to the state to define marriage. Mm-hmm. Marriage precedes the state, and so the state, it's like our natural rights. It's not up to the state to give them to us. The state only recognizes them. So it should know this coming in to an institution that precedes it. That okay, fine, people have been doing this forever. So what's the one thing that's common throughout this? It's that it's one man, one woman, and now of course, our societies have had polygamy and all that, but even if you look at the way polygamy was practiced in many African societies, it wasn't like the other wives were equal. There was always a primary person.
Yes.
So in a sense, polygamy itself was a device to deal with specific sociological circumstances. But even in African polygamy, you can see an orientation towards monogamy. Since the circumstances do not allow for it, many men died in warfare, for example. So the institution was there to help protect the women. Now, of course, over time, it can be corrupted. But there's one thing that is true in all societies, that it's not man to man. It's not woman to woman. Even in cases, for example, among some, like the Kuria, I think, where a woman could, if she was infertile or otherwise unable to bear children, would bring in another woman to bear children on her behalf. But ideally, she would have had to be married first, and her husband would have had to have died, and then she wants to bring in offspring for this family, but she cannot. So she's not marrying that woman. It's understood not to be that. The marriage was the one that was already there. So these are all distortions on a common theme. And then let's see. So there's that, and then the lifelong aspect of it. All societies made it very difficult for people to end marriages. Even though they could be ended, I'm descended from one such person who ended one marriage and entered another. But it was very difficult, because there was already so much, intercourse, between the societies, the communities from which the parties to marriage would come from, indicated by the exchange of property. And so for the state to then come in and say that, okay, cool, if we just sit down today and say, okay, like we are ending our marriage, and then we end it. But you see, you cannot really end it.
You can't.
Especially once children are involved, that marriage cannot really end. even in the eyes of society, because you have to think about now how to handle the children, how to handle the property yourself.
It's for at least for me, I've come to learn how hard and how it is a very painful thing to try and raise children outside of that setup, because there'll be something lacking.
Yeah.
You'll definitely feel it because there's a way that the children yearn for both of their parents and for both of their parents to be with them at the same time.
Yeah.
So when you distort that, then it makes it even difficult. Even if you want to be in those children's lives away from their mother, it would never be. It's not a perfect solution.
Yeah. And then the children.
The children suffer because of
Like, and people are like, oh, I am so the children. What about me? What about my happiness? It's not about you.
It's not about you.
It's like once the children are involved, it's not about you.
It's not.
It's there's nothing there that's about you. And that's harsh to say. That's really harsh to say, especially when you see that it's not just other people. It's your own relatives, your own close friends who are suffering through circumstances like this. It's really harsh to say that it's not about you because your primary allegiance is to your friends or to your relatives. But I have seen this enough, even in my own short life, to know that it's like, look, maybe once the children are over 18, once they can take care of themselves, if you still have a goal, if you still are very, 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 very motivated, then maybe it makes sense. And I understand that there are certain circumstances where even the separation will have to take place.
Yeah. Okay.
But nobody thinks that that's ideal. Like and we shouldn't create a society where it's something that's like super, super accessible. People should have to run the gauntlet to separate. Like really, really run it. Like you really have to be motivated. The violations have to be really egregious. And you have to be able to prove it and over a long period enough. Now I understand. So, you see, there's even there's a midway state, which many of our societies also recognize, which is separation without divorce. Which is a good way to solve problems, because at least the children know the parents are not divorced; they're just separated, and that psychologically is still good. Like these people are not seeing other people, even if they are. It's like clandestine. It's not that they're still married; they're just living separately. That's fine. Also, well, it's not as fine as being in one space, being always there. But it's definitely better than these guys are completely estranged. And this is something. Well, we could go into this maybe in a future episode better. But this is something that even the church recognizes. You see, because in a certain cases there it's just abuse. Like, especially again, the women suffer the most from this. Because the guy is beating you up all the. Like you would be stupid to stay in a situation like that. Just because marriage is for life. No, the nigga's gonna kill you. That marriage is gonna end real soon in there.
And it was for the children.
Yes. Yeah. So move. Find ways to resolve the problem, but if it's chronic, then sayonara bounce. But the marriage does not therefore end. At least we recognize that it does not end it. It's like we are separated for pragmatic reasons, because you can't stop bitching. Or the environment has become really, really, really toxic. But the marriage has not ended. And we're making honest efforts.
I don't know. Some things, I think human beings have, like, I don't know whether they have such a strong capacity to do certain things. Because if I would imagine myself in that situation, maybe I'm speaking too early. But it would really be difficult to live in a life after a divorce, like after a separation. It's not the same. Yeah. And for men, you can't see your children sometimes. Yeah. You lose the benefit of the wife you had, who, in a lot of aspects, was like you bounce off of.
Who's a second you?
Who is a second you, essentially? Yeah. They provide a certain there's something they give to you that nobody else can, And I don't know, I would want to get the perspective of people who went through that process, if indeed it is as like a new freedom, or I don't know, but from what I see it, especially from a child's perspective, it would be the worst thing in my life. I would not want it to happen.
Yeah. And I don't think it's freedom really, because as you're saying, you have to navigate the life post that. And especially because children are involved, you still have to interact with the person you've divorced. There's no, like, it's divorce in word only. But practically, maybe yes, you're no longer staying together and all that. But and then there's some cases where you really need the process, you see.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, maybe one party is no longer cooperative. You still need to raise the children together. You could decide to separate, and then one party starts neglecting their responsibilities. For example, I don't know. They think we separate without divorcing, but we still need to pay school fees for the children together. And one party is not participating. Then maybe you need the law to come in and compel the person to do that.
Yeah.
But you see, like, that's not an optimal solution. The best solution would be if people would still cooperate. Now, it's not ideal. It's not ideal when especially when children are involved.
Yeah, and I think people also forget the fact that, you see, by the mere fact that people get into those unions, they also force you to have certain virtues.
Yeah,
I was
going to say nothing tames a human being more than marriage. Nothing.
Especially the appetites.
Yeah, nothing. Because you can't neglect your duties anymore, because there's a child there. They have to eat. They have to take a shit, and you have to buy the diapers for that shit to go to. Like, it's so practical. There's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. You cannot afford to gallivant around. I mean, you see parents do all kinds of things, man, just for their children. Even the worst people. Even the people, the least faithful people, still have to think about food for their children and for their wives. They'll be like, yeah, I have a wife. I wish I could send her back home, but I have a wife and I have children. And then they have to educate. I mean, the most, I don't know, the least formed people, the ruffianest of ruffians, still, you see them slaving away in the afternoon sun, pushing cocotenis or riding borders, and they still take things home for their children to eat.
Yeah.
For their, they run their farms, they grow food. Even, like, I was so impressed by people in the village. Some who are very poor, still, even there, once a woman is involved, and a child especially, well, people will move heaven and earth. Yeah. And I can't think of anything that's as motivating as that. Intrinsically,
Yeah, because it also, apart from the sense of it being also like a small government, it's also like a small church that orients you towards things like it. You can imagine, like, just as you were saying before, that these are two people who haven't grown up together.
Yeah.
And when the emotions go out after some time, that feeling people normally have after that, then later on you get to a point where you don't really like each other, but the setup forces you to still love that person regardless of.
You have to endure.
So it quite brings out, I think, some of the best capacities in us, as much as also sometimes it brings out our worst qualities.
Yeah. We should make it very difficult. As a society, we should make it very difficult, so that only the really genuine cases get through,
Yeah.
The ones where, like, these people really need to separate. Those should get through, I think. But fundamentally, the orientation should be like, this thing is serious, guys. Like it's really easy. Don't get into it if you're not ready.
Yes.
But once you're in, know that we're going to make it so difficult to get out that it's better you don't do it if you're not ready.
I've seen the sort of happiness that parents have for their children. I think the one where they're happiest is when they see their children getting married, because you know what it is preparing them for. In some sense, the Jews say that part of the things that they teach in money management or like career management in their society is like marriage will give you perhaps the best. If you needed a rocket to go to Mars, this is your rocket, this is your launching pad. So I think the gifts you would get that would allow you to succeed in your life. Marriage is a very essential, in fact, the essential part of it, if you are blessed enough to be ready for it.
Well, and in a sense, I was going to say actually, when I was talking about readiness, in a sense, nobody really can be ready for marriage. That thing is a trip, man. I think maybe the right way to put it is you have to be ready to be ready.
You need to be ready.
Be ready to be ready, because you really can't be ready, fundamentally speaking, for marriage. What you need is courage to deal with everything that comes through, because it's a trip, man. It's a trip. So what you need is the courage and maturity to let go of yourself, to disappear for a long time. Okay? Even if you still want to find yourself later, it has to be, you have to wait until all your children are grown up. Then maybe you can find yourself. But if you go in there thinking that I'm doing this out of love, nice feelings, like throw that out the window. Well, maybe love understood properly.
Yes.
But you see, also many people don't, when I say love, they're not thinking of love as love. They're thinking of love as feelings. Of love as, that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when you're in the presence of somebody. And while that is involved in love, it is not love. And that wears away very quickly.
I don't know whether it's possible for... I agree with you in part, but I think it's like a symptom of the love. When we're talking about love in the sense of the word, it is what now engenders that feeling. So perhaps if you are addicted to the feeling itself, or think that the feeling is the love, then we lose the entire sense. The love as essentially as what we are talking about it in the right sense of the word. Then it is like an after effect. I don't know how. No. True. The feelings should come every now and then. And I don't know, without the feelings, how would you even know that you love the person? Actually, not even how would you know that you love the person. How would you even start to love the person? The body has to be involved, ultimately. Because it's a mystery how we get attracted to people in the first place. So how are you going to even start a relationship if the person does not inspire some warm, fuzzy feeling in there? What I'm talking about is feelings are not perpetual. Feelings, like all feelings, comments.
They come and go. They come and go. And so what sustains you between them, and hopefully it's between them and not from one to eternity without another occurrence, is your fundamental orientation, which is what we would call love, which is to want the best for the other person. But genuinely, it's an act of the will, not of the body. It's to want to stay there, even when the feelings are not there. Because sometimes the feelings are not going to be there, and sometimes the feelings are not going to be there for a very long time. Think of the man or the woman who has to care for a sick spouse for years. You get married and then 2 years in, one of you gets a stroke and gets paralyzed. What keeps you there for another 10, 20 years before this person dies?
It's something that really people need to give. Because, as you say, it is there for, in fact, for, we may say yes, for the children are a priority.
Yeah.
But we should also not forget that even the parents benefit.
Yes.
Spouses do in fact benefit.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody, the government will not take care of you the way your wife will take care of you. And she also relies on you for certain things,
Yeah.
So the only guarantee outside of ourselves and God for things being in our best interest is the marriage.
That is true. That is true. And we see this aspect that it's also for the people who are getting married. That marriage is also for them. I think that's one part that had been overlooked for a long time, and that's why the pendulum was swinging, driven by this sexual revolution. It's not just about the children, it's about us too. But then it stopped being about the children also entirely. Then it became about us. So it's our happiness that matters. But if our happiness is the only thing that matters, then therefore when we stop being happy, then we can, by mutual consent, separate.
Yes.
But then you see that then overlooks the other side altogether. So that pendulum should have swung somewhere in the middle. Virtue, as Aristotle said, is always in the medium, in the katikati. It's not just about the children, but it is about. It's not just about your happiness, but it is about it. So it's here, both. It's not one or the other. So, and that's why the marriage needs to be. And that's why, if we are crafting laws about marriage to regulate this institution, then we need to think about that. But deeply, not in a casual manner. You can say, we are making it easier for them to separate for the sake of the children. But no, you're thinking of the children only in one instant. Okay, maybe for 1 year, maybe for a few months. But what about for their entire lives? What about and are you making different considerations for children who are already adolescents? For a marriage that has, say, 4 children, 2 already adolescents, they are more or less grown up. But what about the infants? I think because you cannot make a law that covers all of them together.
Yeah, it would be quite, because say for instance today, perhaps naively, 2 parties decide to separate, to get them married and now. Then tomorrow, maybe after the annulment, the wife finds out she's pregnant. So what happens? If it's, especially if it's a pervading thing, for instance, maybe it's a young couple who don't know better, then they decide, by mutual consent, we decided to terminate the marriage. And even after how long? Now, those kind of things. So it's something that is not easy to just. It cannot just walk into an event like that. It does have some consideration.
No, ideally that thing should just die. Ideally, an amendment like that it shouldn't make it through the readings. First reading, throw it out. Even if it makes it to a reading, I suppose it has to, because it's introduced. Do acts, do bills have to be read at least, or can they die at the committee stage?
Bills may not even make it to Parliament.
Very good. This should
not things that have stayed bills for a long time. And perhaps sometimes also these things are done to trigger some conversations. There's some other aspects to it that are not purely what it seems to be.
But some things should not be played with. I mean, if he's doing this just to trigger a conversation, then he's the most cynical bastard in Parliament. This is the wrong thing to joke around.
Politicians have this, I think I've seen it. There's a way in which the game of politics it's almost this realm where anything goes, to achieve whatever end, as in there are people who have this mindset that achieve anything at any cost, everything goes.
It's almost like we're going full circle to where we began. That there are some people who just want to achieve it right. Like this fellow. So the people of Sona, is it Sona West or Sona East? Yeah. There's people like Junet. You know, Junet is from Suna.
You're giving people from Igoria bad name.
No. I mean, we also have horrible parliamentarians from other places. But I'm just telling the people of Suna that they need to note this. And when the guy comes asking for votes again, just shoot him in the ass. Tell him to bugger off. Because how? Anyway, I need to read the bill itself and see. Maybe I'm speaking out of. But anyway, me, what I know is you don't joke around with marriage. You should be very, very, very careful. If he's just doing it out of a cynical ploy to gain notoriety, then he's a bastard. He's a fool. And I mean that in the I use that term sometimes as a term of endearment. But in this case, I mean it in its grammatical sense.
Unequivocal.
Yeah, unequivocal. That is, yeah. Well. Anyway, I think we should end this here now. Perhaps, like, I know somebody who runs an Institute of Family Studies. It's called the Institute of Family Studies in Strathmore University. Perhaps I could reach out to her because I'm sure this is on her radar. We can bring her in and she can give us some more serious insights on this matter that maybe we are not qualified to bring forward.
Because in any case, the practice of law is very wide, and there are areas, unless you dedicate study time, you may not, like, I don't practice marriage law, for instance. Somebody who in the confines of that and having, like, done more work there, perhaps would be more.
Yeah, this person is a lawyer, actually, so teaches law. It's a center on family matters. Yeah, let me ask her if she can come on. At some point. But making no promises, our dear listeners. If this person never comes here, it's fine. But I hope she will.
Yeah.
Okay. That's been it for today. At least for the podcast. All right. Ciao, everybody.